Oh, great. It's great when that hush starts, everyone is ready at that stage. Good evening, Provost, colleagues and guests. And you're very welcome. It's an absolute pleasure and an honour to welcome you all to the inaugural lecture of Professor Susa Benseler. These lectures, as you may know, are special moments in university life, a celebration not just of academic achievement, but of the people behind them. And in Susa's case, we're celebrating someone whose accomplishments are remarkable, but whose impact, warmth and vision go far beyond the lines of any CV. So Susa joined us in 2024 as Chief Academic Officer of Children's Health Ireland and Head of Paediatric Health Affairs through a unique collaboration with 4 Dublin-based universities, Trinity College, UCD, DCU and RCSI. Already her energy and ambition have been quietly transforming the landscape of academic child health in Ireland. But Susa's story begins long before that, one that stretches across countries, discipline, and decades of work dedicated to children, science, and society. Professor Benseler graduated from medical school at the University of Freiburg in Germany at a time when that region, including Strasbourg and Basel, was at the cutting edge of modern immunology. It was there, immersed in the ideas of great scientific minds and institutions like the Max Planck Institute and the Basel Institute of Immunology, that her passion for inflammation and immunology first sparked. That passion carried Susa Benseler into a PhD in experimental pathology and then into paediatrics. Her clinical work took her from Freiburg to Bonn and then across the Atlantic to the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto, known to many as Sick Kids, where she spent the next years combining clinical excellence with a relentless commitment to research and innovation. While working in paediatric intensive care, Susa developed a fascination for the complex interface between acute illness and chronic conditions. She became a leading figure in paediatric rheumatology and co-founded an innovative program focused on inflammatory brain diseases, a space that barely existed at the time. Through brain work, an international network and virtual cohort of rare and ultra-rare diseases, Susa helped develop protocols that have significantly reduced mortality for children suffering from devastating neuroinflammatory disorders. And that's a theme you'll see throughout her career, building things and bringing people together to do more than they thought possible. In Calgary, she led the Paediatric Rheumatology Division and became the director of the Alberta Children's Hospital Research Institute. There, she helped secure Canada's largest ever child health research grant, One Child, Every Child, a transformative national initiative focused on precision child health, better beginnings and neurodiversity. She did all this while never losing sight of the individual child. Susa adopted the motto, research is care and care is research, and you feel that in the way she speaks about her work. She doesn't talk about protocols or policy in the abstract. She talks about empowering families, amplifying patient voices, and bringing dignity to care. As she declaims, we have to advance care, not just provide it. Her efforts have led to real structural change where the research is no longer an add-on, but part of the culture of care itself. If all of this sounds slightly superhuman, I should reassure you, Susa herself is disarmingly human. She describes herself as hopelessly optimistic, loves change, loves a challenge, and is a lifelong learner. She also has a gift for seeing people for their strengths, their passions, and their potential. One of her colleagues said she thrives at the interface, and I think that's true in every sense. The interface between disciplines, between care and science, between people and institutions. Susa has a global perspective, but her focus is always local in the best sense. Grounded, community-oriented, and driven by a desire to make life better for those around her. Whether it's working with the World Health Organization on refugee and migrant child health or helping to shape Canada's first child health and wellness strategy, she brings a powerful belief that universities can and must improve the health of societies. She continues to treat patients in rheumatology and remains curious and excited about what's to come. When asked what Ireland needs most for child health research, she didn't hesitate. We need a National Child Health Research Institute. She sees Ireland's unique strengths, its talent, its culture of collaboration, its investment in digital and precision health, and she's already thinking about what we can build together. Even as she has received accolades, including being named one of Canada's top 100 most powerful women, Susa is consistently self-effacing. She puts the team first, celebrates others, and doesn't linger long on praise. But tonight, we get the chance to do what she often won't do for herself: pause, reflect, and appreciate the extraordinary contributions she has made and the energy and the wisdom she brings to the future. So it's with great pride and genuine excitement I welcome Professor Susa Benseler to deliver her inaugural lecture, Moving the Flywheel, Precision, Compassion and Partnership for Child Health. Please join me in giving her a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much for this absolutely wonderful introduction. I told him to not tell some of the stories, which you told all of them, basically. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for giving me time to share my work and my dreams with you. I chose the title, Moving the Flywheel. I don't know if you have this concept of a flywheel in your head. It's often in my head. It's this massive thing, this wheel that was built that is so heavy that you can hardly move. But if you build a team and if you work together and you dream together, you get it moving. And once it moves, the sky is the limit. And we can all make a change together. So let me get you through this presentation. Before I start, I want to thank 4 people. I'm grateful for all of you being here, but I just want to say thank you to Michael Keane, who led Professor Michael Keane at University College Dublin, who led my recruitment. It's his fault that I'm here. And to Professor Owen Smith, I have to tell you, Professor Owen Smith, because he's actually the mastermind behind all this concept of advancing child health through research, of integrating the universities, of integrating our brilliant minds. The only tiny little piece he's not taken care of is making it a reality. And that's why I am here. And a big, big thank you to my friends from Calgary, to Stan and Marge Oberko, who came all the way to sit here. Thank you. And this is me. And this is me. I'm a pediatrician caring for children with acute and chronic diseases for almost 30 years. And when I look at this picture with one of my patients taken in Calgary, I just feel so blessed that I have had the opportunity of being part of families of good and bad, sad and happy situations in their lives. It's just a wonderful thing to be a pediatrician. So where do I come from? This is a picture of Rothenburg an der Wümme. So, Mom, it's our fault, okay? So Rothenburg an der Wümme is this tiny little place between Hamburg, Bremen, in the middle of nowhere, where I grew up. It's a community of 25,000 people, cows included, and it's a wonderful place because it is a place where there's one school. All of us go to the same school, just a few classes. No matter if you're rich or poor, no matter what your ethnic background, your faith is, it doesn't matter. You build friendships, and these friendships have lasted for our entire life. You will recognize the weather. I don't know when they took this picture, but the rain is warm in the summer and cold in the winter, so very much like Ireland. And the excitement is exactly depicted in this picture, which is the Marco Polo travel guide. So the excitement in Rothenburg is minimal to none. So after high school, I decided to move. But before I tell you a bit more, I want to give a shout to the women in my life. My grandmother, my mom and my sister who is sitting up there, my wonderful daughter and my new daughter-in-law almost, to my friends, and on the bottom there you see us at age 16 and then almost 60 trying to take the same picture, to by heroes that have inspired me to Sefa Kuna. She's the CEO of the Alberta Children's Hospital Foundation in Calgary, and Margaret Fullerton, who used to run the Children's Hospital. She's a nurse and the senior operating officer. They are my heroes. Their wisdom and their kindness has guided me for a long, long time and will continue to do so. And on the right side, you see my North Star. This is Emma McCann. She is the kindest and loveliest woman I've met here in Dublin, and I just so love you. Thank you for coming, Emma. The three people up there are just superstars. This is Mary Lynch. I made a joke saying I'm selling tickets with access to Mary Lynch, and I'm making a career out of this. It's actually going really well. There's Martina Hennessy, who is the Chief Academic Officer in the adult world, and from day one on, Martina and I have been walking side by side and have trusted each other, have become friends. And on top there is a wonderful woman who is here in the audience that I deeply admire, the wonderful Lucy Nugent, who is our Chief Executive Officer, or our CEO, a kind and selfless woman who took on a job that I'm sure is the hardest job in the world, and we couldn't be more grateful. Thank you, Lucy. So my professional journey, after I got out of Rotenburg, started in Freiburg, and we just heard that this was really, in a way, the center of the universe for immunology. It was the discovery of the T-cell receptor, and it opened a door into a completely new world, a world of understanding host defense, understanding inflammation, understanding immunodeficiency, and it completely grabbed me, and I still believe that everything, no matter which subspecialty you're in, everything is inflammation, okay? Just in case. So I started training in pediatrics in Freiburg in this wonderful, beautiful, small hospital, providing care in rheumatology, immunology, and HIV, and then became an ICU physician in pediatrics. In 2001, my husband Justus was here in the audience, and I felt like it's perhaps time for an adventure. So we went to Toronto for a very long 2-year vacation, we thought. But even after a few months, we figured out that we were, one, out of money, so I started moonlighting in the emergency department, and two, we continued to love Canada a lot, and 25 years later, we were still there. So the last 10 years in Canada, I had the huge privilege of working in Calgary. Calgary is a very unique place. It is a place of entrepreneurship, of trust, and just absolutely wonderful people. And I had the privilege of working there in a leadership role for care and in a leadership role for research at the Alberta Children's Hospital Research Institute. And I think we built a community that I have never seen before, with patients, families, and our absolutely fabulous wider community. Partnerships have always encouraged me, have always driven me. You can see the partnership on your left with our team in neurology, and this is Adam Curtin. Adam is an absolutely brilliant mind behind enabling children with disability through a method called brain-computer interface. In the middle is my rheumatology community, my arthritis family, and this is Deborah Marshall on the left, who is a health economist. The two guys are fabulous Dutch researchers, Joost Zwart and Bas Wastert. And on the right side is my digital twin, which is Ray Young. Ray and I have been working together for 25 years. She's a basic scientist and absolutely wonderful. And on your right side, you see our team at the Alberta Children's Hospital Research Institute. These fabulous people have just moved the needle for children and families in Calgary in a wonderful way. But we haven't stopped within the walls of academia, as our dean said. We really went out. We did town halls in public libraries and across the city, and really brought together our health system, our government, our donor community, and patients and families with university and our health system. Research is care, and care is research. I believe that every single moment of my life. I'm going to share with you the journey through one of the most common conditions we have in rheumatology, which is childhood arthritis. Many of you won't know that childhood arthritis carries a dramatic individual and societal burden. It is a key source of pain and daily discomfort. We still have joint replacements in children less than 18 years of age, and the societal burden is estimated at 67 billion Canadian dollars in 2030. For me, the most frustrating piece is that the remission rates are extremely low, as you can see, less than 20% at 24 months. Childhood arthritis affects 1 in 500 children and is the leading cause of disability. And when you look at the scheme of the normal joint, then one of my patients, and then the joint that she actually has, which really looks like a joint of an 80-year-old with loss of cartilage, you can easily see how she suffers through the day. And this is another disappointment of my life, which is, what is the standard of care in arthritis care? The standard of care is trial and error. We see the child, we examine the child, we do blood work, we give a diagnosis, and we start treatment 1. And then we see them back in 3 months, and then we check, do the same thing, examine, do blood work, and then we start treatment 2, because usually it hadn't worked, and so forth. And what guides us here? Really, this is ancient medicine. We are looking at patterns. So which joints are involved? Is it the ankles or the fingers? How many joints are involved? Are there any other features like rashes or fevers or nail pitting that we see? And then we have these fabulous biomarkers that we literally have for 20 years and nothing has happened, right? So absolutely dismal. And this is our classification, and the rheumatologists in the room know that our classification was made in 2001 and hasn't moved one step further. And basically is just counting joints. And again, we have very, very low rates of remission. Oops, sorry. This is a picture of hope. This funny, beautiful circle there shows you on the right side the different diseases that we have in rheumatology: oligoarthritis, polyarthritis, and on the left side, biological pathways. So pathways driven in inflammation. And what you can see is that they absolutely don't match. It's a flip of the coin. The biologic basis of a disease and the clinical diagnosis that we give and select treatments on do not match one bit. So we need to do better. We need evidence, and this evidence we decided as a community is going to be genomic evidence, the deep dive into an understanding of the child. So this is the bear that got out of the cage in the Berlin Zoo in 2004, and the first thing he did was pick up this bike. And this is exactly how I feel most days. There must be something we can do here. I'm just not entirely sure what it is. So there are 2 approaches I'm going to share with you. The first approach is an approach that I'm going to call rare informs common. So looking at the opportunity of rare diseases, and many of you are part of the rare disease community. In 1997, one of the first genetic discoveries was made in a disease that had to do with inflammation, genetic inflammation, which is called familial Mediterranean fever. A gene was found, and the protein was found that causes the disease. And lovely fact is that it was found on both sides of the Atlantic, in Dan Kastner at the NIH and Isabelle in Montpellier, and they got together and published it together. But that set up an explosion, because now suddenly people were looking for a genetic cause and the mechanisms of inflammation. And there were diseases found, and Seamus is here, in the space that causes inflammatory bowel disease and much more. And a lot of this work was done by these fabulous people, Hal Hoffman, Ivona Aksentjevic, and Rafaela Goldbachmanski. One disease that I was always interested in is a condition called cryopyrin-associated periodic syndromes, or CAPS. The reason for that is that we see a lot of children in our clinic that have this condition and have very bad, very severe arthritis. So they end up in our community. So what is actually happening in the cells when people have an inflammatory disease? And in 2002, one of the key discoveries was made of a mechanism that is called the inflammasome. It's an intracellular a package that I'm going to show you, and it was discovered by an Irishman in England, Michael McDermott, and 2 Swiss. And this is how it looks like. It's basically a complex that assembles, and as it assembles inside of the cell, it activates chemicals that are driving inflammation. And this is the same in a scheme So you have a mechanism running in a cell that automatically results in release of inflammatory cytokines. But more importantly, these inflammatory cytokines, as they leave the cell, irritate the organs, irritate the liver, the brain, and so forth, and create fever. So a discovery of a gene and a mechanistic understanding is influencing care. So clearly research is care and care is research. And I'm going to show you an example. This is one of my patients. So she was sent to me because she has very bad arthritis, and she has this rash. And with this rash, she also has fever and red eyes at times. The rash was thought to be hives, but she doesn't respond to hives treatment. She has very high inflammatory markers, and the mom is convinced that when she sends her out in the cold and she's not dressed warm enough, which mother doesn't say that, but she basically said if she goes out without her jacket on, she comes back the next day, she has a rash and a fever. Always trust the parent. So this is the rash that she gets, triggered 24 hours after she's out in the cold. And when they did biopsies, they did not find the histology that one should find when you think it's hives. I think it's a huge opportunity to look at children in a systematic way, not only to say, you got skin rash, I'm going to send you to the dermatologist, but look at the child as a whole. So we've established a protocol to look basically head to toe for impact of inflammation. And one of the areas of impact of inflammation in children is hearing loss. So when we tested her hearing, you can see typically this line is supposed to be all straight across all of the frequencies here. You could see that in the high frequency, in the high-pitched tones, she actually had lost hearing. And that is pretty dramatic. It's hard to tell in a 10-year-old, but when you have hearing loss at this range that she does, you're actually not able to hear birds anymore. You don't hear leaves falling down the tree or water dripping out of a water faucet. We did genetic testing on her. She does have this variant that I introduced you to that results in cryopyrin-associated periodic syndromes. And that is, Emma knows that very well. That is only the start of it, because now you get the entire family in, because it's a genetic disease that is autosomal dominant, so we have a 50-50 chance, so you bring everybody in, all the uncles, all the aunts and cousins and everybody. The interesting thing is when we did this, some of them had the mutation but had absolutely no symptoms. Some were very sick, and some just had a tiny bit of it. So what is this that drives what's called the penetrance? Some of them had just a little bit of rashes in the cold. Some of them had very severe neurodisability and severe hearing loss. So this led to a manuscript that we published, and that has really become one of the cornerstones of these conditions, that says that the disease changes its face depending on how old you are. That as a child, you much more commonly have a systemic inflammatory phenotype, whereas organ disease is more common in older people. So it appears that this protein that I told you about is a bit of a gatekeeper. It does balance the right amount of inflammation and a risk of danger. So if that's the case, and when you have this mutation, you lose the gatekeeper. It is as if you have the foot on the pedal the entire time, and the cell makes these large amounts of inflammatory proteins. So it's really important to understand this, because as patients get older, like the father and the grandmother, all of those symptoms worsen. The only time you can treat hearing loss is early on in the disease. And what you're seeing here in yellow is what we typically test. We test the lower frequencies. So when we systematically examined a lot of children and adults, we figured out that if you do this, you miss the vast majority of treatable hearing loss. In fact, you need to expand the spectrum if you want to pick it up early. So that has changed practice. Everybody who comes in with hearing loss or concern for hearing loss now gets the full spectrum of testing. So clearly, if you know something and you know what the reason is, you want to change it, right? You're all sitting on our benches thinking, okay, what you doing about it now? So clearly, we understand the mechanism behind this condition leading to severe arthritis. And we ended up getting a medication, an antibody that was produced by Novartis that blocks exactly these chemicals. And when you give this antibody to children or adults, you can absolutely prevent the disease being clinically significant. This is just a picture of the rash that disappears. If you test patients and look at early hearing loss and give them the medication, none of the children and adults worsen, and the vast majority improves. So you're really having a window of opportunity here. And we were able to share that around the world, writing evidence-based guidelines, which is really important. And then we went back to the hospitals, and that's perhaps interesting for everybody, because we had done all this fabulous work, published it, and so forth, and then we went to the hospitals and said, okay, show us your rates of response, show us how well the patients are doing. And remember, the study said something between 90 and 100% of patients are cured from this disease. But when you look at this here, 5 centers, you get at most 70% of response. So why is that? Because some centers measure how well the medication does and increase the dose if needed, and others don't. So it's not enough to just know what to do. You also have to figure out, does it work in real life, and what are the barriers to it? And in many countries, since we have developed guidelines that clinicians, that healthcare teams have to do exactly what I'm just described. And not only this, in partnership with industry, there are now many, many new drugs in the pipeline that can be used to control the disease. For me, research is care, and care is research. But when you think about the group, the many, many children with arthritis, does everybody have this rare disease? Probably not, right? It's 1 or 2 or 5 of them, but not everybody. So how do we figure out what to do best for the rest of them? So I would call the second approach embracing disease heterogeneity. And the basis for this is a network that we're calling UCAN, Understanding Childhood Arthritis Network. In 2009, a large group of people from around the world came together at a conference and said, we have to change the outcome of children with arthritis. I showed you the impact that the disease has. And we're going to do things the same way. We're going to measure the same way. We're going to examine the same way. We're going to test blood the same way. And that is the basis for the Understanding Childhood Arthritis Network, or UCAN. And now there's over 50 countries, and there are rheumatology centers part of it. And when we started the first study, we said, what is important? It's important that we figure out what the disease is at the time of diagnosis, at the time when we choose the treatment, and at the time when we stop the treatment. So these 3 time points. But how do we figure out of when you go and start genetic testing and proteomics and transcriptomics and all the other omics, how do you figure out which one of this is relevant and what is just noise? So when you stand at the corner with your phone and you go to Google Maps and it tells you to go left or right, that's exactly what it does. It basically layers information on each other and brings it together to you standing at this corner. And the Institute of Medicine has suggested, a number of years ago, suggested that we should look at diseases this way. Think about this Google Maps. Think about informing layers. The problem is, for those of you who are statisticians, that typically you have 5 children with a disease and 250 variables. You go to your statistician and he sends you out the 5 seconds later saying, no, it's not going to happen, not going to work. So you need brilliant minds, and we are lucky because we have brilliant minds in our midst. Walter Colgin is one of the systems biologists. The same is Anna Goldenberg, one of my friends who has done this work. So what she did is she looked at a deadly brain cancer in 215 children. Under the microscope, the brain cancer looked the same across the board. But when they did the deep dive into the genes and transcript and proteins and all of those, and used the framework of saying not which of those factors predicts which outcome, but how do these factors together create a similarity? These 4 patients are similar and these patients are similar. She figured out that within this group of 215 patients, there's actually 4 groups that respond very differently to treatment. And you have to identify those, and then you drive the survival rates high up. And that was an aha moment for me. I felt like, what if we can understand the disease of the child in front of us better and pick the right treatment because we have a test that helps us with it? So that was the idea. We went back to the 3 time points. We got together with all of the rheumatologists across Canada, across the Netherlands. We built 4 cohorts, one for the diagnosis, one for the treatment start, one for the stoppers, and one for the rare phenotype that I explained to you before. We enrolled 2,200 children across Canada and across the Netherlands. And I have to tell you, we did this during COVID. So that was a nightmare, you can easily imagine. Each of the children needed to be examined, needed to have blood work done, and then needed to be examined and have blood work done again 6 months later. And we built a framework around them, and you will find the Google Maps in there, trying to make sense of the information that we're getting brilliant minds in data science together, a team that has never worked together and hardly spoke the same language, I oftentimes felt. But we got together and said, okay, here's my piece, and I'm going to move it forward. My piece was amplifying the patient's voice, and we did this with a digital platform that we developed, a platform that gives a voice to patients and families and to physicians. And it integrates those 2 voices in a clinical dashboard. So when you go to the doctor, you have the patient perspective, the blood work, the examination tests, the medication, all together. And you look at them and co-design, are really empowered to co-design care in childhood arthritis. We measured many markers, and this is an example of them called the interferon score. So one of the beauties of this is if you have a high interferon score and you use a medicine that treats exactly this pathway, you should lose this interferon signature, but you should also do better. So we were now able not only to look at the fabulous biology, but the impact of treatment and judge it together. And that was really needed. So this is a really embarrassing study. So in Calgary, we were 8 pediatric rheumatologists. We all trained more or less in the same place. We all read the same textbooks and had the same teachers. And we were convinced that we're all doing the same thing. So we had a medical student in the summer, and she pulled 325 charts. And she told us that we're using 112 unique treatment protocols. And we were bold enough to publish this. So, it just means we don't exactly know what we're doing, and we're never doing the same thing. It's time to protocolize our care. The other component that is part of the eHealth platform I told you about is looking beyond health as the absence of disease. So there are instruments in there in many languages, by the way, that look at the impact on health, on carers, on patients, on families and caregivers, the impact on school, the impact on incomes. And this is just one example that shows you that if their child has arthritis, 65% of parents say that they do not have the help they need. And I can tell you, this is not unique to Canada. I've seen this day in, day out in our rheumatology clinic here. A lot of work we need to do. There are also results of this study that were completely unexpected. So this, for example, one of the students in the Netherlands, in Utrecht, said to us, does it matter when you start treatment? Does it matter if it's in the first 6 months or 12? So she looked at the data and she showed, remember I told you that at 24 months, the response rate to treatment, the kids that are really in remission, is 20%. If you treat them within the first 6 months, you end up with 80%. 80%. So we have to get better bringing patients in, diagnosing them, and starting them on effective treatment. So this was a bit of a tour de force through my life in arthritis and arthritis research, but I want to share with you that although we started in a condition that is fairly defined, namely childhood arthritis, as we moved along, we built many partnerships with other rare diseases. We guided the World Economic Forum. We built partnership with the University of Calgary to build a program that trains patients to become researchers, And it set the foundation for the grant that we had talked about before, which is called One Child, Every Child. One Child, Every Child is the largest investment made in child health in Canada. We were awarded 125.2. I cut some. I know I'm still mad. So that 125.2 million Canadian dollars. And what is even more important, that was matched more than 1-to-1 by our generous community. It's funding for 7 years. And why did we choose this? So this is one of our patients. She's born at 24 months. And there's no doubt, and you can easily see that she needs all the care we can give, all the technology we have, the best medications we have, all of those. So what we do for this one child, we have to do for every child, no matter what their health and disease is. We built a framework that focused on mothers and children, on children with chronic diseases and medical complexity, and those that live with neurodiversity or mental health challenges. And we built accelerators across those that are empowering the healthcare teams in each of the themes. We also built national partnerships. That was like herding cats. We got every single children's hospital across the country to buy into this, every single university to buy into this. And what you see on the right side is what's called the Inspiring Healthy Futures Network, which includes more than 6,000 Canadian organizations in the space of child health that agreed to participate and amplify. We also got 124 international child health centers to be partners and make a commitment to share and amplify the knowledge that we're generating together. And ultimately, what we want is that Bella, this little girl that I showed you before, lives up to her very, very best life, that we've done everything for her to live up to her potential. The last part of my presentation is about compassion and partnership. And we just had Bloomsday. I've never seen this before. It seems to be an Irish thing. So one of the things that I found was this quote from Joyce. And I want you to shut your eyes and see. There is so much noise around us, so much unnecessary anger and, crap. Yeah? But when you close your eyes and see and think about what really matters to you, you see very clearly, right? You see that the secret force in health and wellness for our children are the families. They spend 99% of the time with them. They care for them. We, in healthcare, we see them for a moment, but the rest of the time, care is provided at home, and thriving is enabled by parents. We have absolutely spectacular healthcare teams. We witness this every day. They rally around the child and the family and do anything so the child has the best outcome. We have patients that are advising us. This is our young advisory group that helps us build and finish the new children's hospital, that tell us exactly where the plug for the cell phone has to be. Okay, no discussion, right? So, and we will have a brand new children's hospital, which I believe and I am committed to, and I know we're not going to let it go. This is going to be one of Europe's finest children's hospitals, and we're all going to be in there and celebrate this. It will be a unique experience for patients and families. This is, when you go into these rooms, it's absolutely lovely and wonderful. And we will build together a center for child research and innovation. Sorry, I have to look at my CEO. Look at her, she's nodding. Thanks, Lucy. Because we need places where we bring people together. This was the beginning of the UCAN group. We had families, nurses, scientists from all over the world going into a place in Saskatchewan, in Saskatoon, because they have one of those buildings. And the whole day we were just dreaming and talking and building. People need space to dream and build teams. We need to make sure that we're doing this in partnership with patients and families. So this was the end of our UCAN grant, where we had a conference in north of Toronto with 300 families from across Canada, and the Netherlands. And I can tell you, they told us what to do. We still got good advice, and it's right. It is what matters to patients and families. So going back to the theme, together we can move this flywheel. It's going to be really painful. Didn't tell you that I didn't tell you. Okay, it is going to be a lot of work and a lot of resistance and a lot of noise. But together we can move this flywheel, and together we can advance the health and wellness of children in Ireland. I am sure about this. Because at the end of the day, no matter if you call it precision health or data science or whatever it is, this is one of my patients, Ben. The medicine that I've given him brought him no happiness. He's in a wheelchair. Obviously, he's bullied by all of his friends. This is the man getting precision health therapy, and I do not support the choice of vehicle that he's in. This is my last slide, and it shares guidance I got from Seifa Kuna, a wonderful woman. What she said is, if you want to walk fast, you walk alone. But if you want to walk far, you walk together. Thank you all so much.